Georgia Tech is a college football playoff caliber team in 2025 and my dark horse to make the CFP.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.
Brent Key has transformed this team. Look no else besides their last game of the regular season against Georgia. A heartbreaker, we understand, but such a darn good performance against the SEC champion Georgia Bulldogs on the road at Sanford. The next time they get to play the Bulldogs will be, of course, in the season finale, but that time at Mercedes-Benz Stadium at a neutral site. Georgia Tech has the players, the roster, starting with their very experienced quarterback in Haynes King and terrific dynamic running back in Jamal Haynes. Look no else besides that performance against Georgia and how well they performed in that first half and down the stretch. It was just unfortunate the way that ended with the fumble on that 3rd and 1 where they were looking to seal the game. On defense, they return Jordan Vandenberg, of course, the year ago, the transfer from Penn State, who had 3 years of production. He brings versatility as well as a veteran presence to the front of that defense on the defensive line. And of course, Kyle Eford at the front, the linebackerest linebacker in all of college football. You can easily point him out, number 44, a captain for the Yellow Jackets. And next year will be trickier as far as finding the production on the outside from the start, right? There's no Eric Singleton for the Yellow Jackets last year. He was just a transformational player, so dynamic with the ball in his hands, getting it to him, and he transfers to be a football player now for Auburn. They bring in Eric Rivers, huge production, 1,100 yards, like 9 touchdowns a year ago. There's still Isaiah Gagnon and Malik Rutherford for them to lean on getting the football to. This is a unit that is a little bit smaller, right, but they sure to rely on a whole lot of speed and the heart and willpower of their quarterback in Haynes King. They start off the season at Folsom Field at Colorado. Now, Deion Sanders is going to have to understand, and we do know he understands this, he's going to have to bring his team back from losing their star quarterback and contention to be in there for New York in Shedeur Sanders. Of course, the two-way star in Travis Hunter. There's neither of those guys there. If Georgia Tech were playing Colorado last year, might have this one going the other way, but have Georgia Tech coming out with a win 27-17, again, leaning on that veteran ability of Haynes King. Now, Haynes King has basically in the last 2 years decided, like, we're going to meet in the middle where the production was 2 years ago, right? As far as the touchdowns, the interceptions were, he had 27 touchdowns and like 12 picks. I'm looking at it here, 16 picks in 2023. Last year, a whole lot less passing touchdowns, 14. Half of that amount, in 2023, but only 2 interceptions and kept his team in games. Completion percentage was at 73% and a whole bunch of production on the ground. He will continue to do that, likely going to have another double-digit touchdown season running the football and somewhere around 650 yards. He is what that team is. Haynes King is Georgia Tech. Week 2, Gardner Webb, a good win for them. Don't even have to have Haynes King or Jamal Haynes out on the field for the fourth quarter. And then it's Clemson, baby, and you get that game at home. That home site compared to playing that game at Clemson is massive. Clemson returns arguably the best quarterback in college football in Cade Klubnik. Very likely could probably put him a 65% chance to be in New York at this point, to be a Heisman contender and a top 5 NFL draft pick. Returning Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco, like that receiving core is tremendous. And then, of course, on defense, who will make it very tough, Avion Terrell in the secondary for Haynes King to be able to find his wide receivers that we were talking about a little bit earlier. And then defensively, once again, Peter Woods, TJ Parker are top 15 for sure picks in the 2026 NFL Draft. TJ Parker set the record for forced fumbles for Clemson in 2024. 6 of them, 11 sacks. He'll be up there once again. And then Peter Woods in the interior just making things tough. Have them dropping this game 27-24. But what is beautiful about this new modern era of college football, where you see the expansion from 2 to 4 to 12 teams and possibly beyond that, is Georgia Tech can lose 2 games next year. Don't know if you want to lose to Clemson. You obviously don't, but it will not end your season losing to Clemson. We know they play Clemson in conference, Georgia out of conference. Those are the 2 games hunt this season that you have to come up with at some point to be able to find a way to win one of those games. Like if you go 7-1 within the conference, very likely you are playing for a ACC championship, unless that game is a loss to Clemson. This is the biggest game of their season, no doubt. Have them losing this game 27-24 though, just because of that ability of Cade Klubnik to find somebody when he's going to need it later on in the stretch, and liking Clemson's defense just a tad more than what Georgia Tech has. Temple 34-14 at Wake Forest 31-16. A decent start to the year at 4-1. Understandably, people are going to be looking at Georgia Tech. Eyeballs all over them early on with that matchup at Colorado and Folsom Field as a determiner. Like, okay, is Georgia Tech going to be good again? Like, pretty good. At least an okay team. Okay, the win. And then Clemson, everybody is having eyeballs on that football game. That is huge. And if you play them tight, you can understand, like, all right, Georgia Tech, let's say Clemson gets to the CFP and the committee's like, we want to put Clemson in the playoff as a high seed. Well, it's like Georgia Tech played them right there, close to the brink. Near the end of the season, that Brent Key team is so well coached that they almost deserve a spot in the playoff. Understandably, they don't play Miami this year. And I have Miami going 10-2 with losses to Florida as well as SMU and Kevin Jennings. SMU, I have 9-3, but unranked and missing the ACC champ game as well as the college football playoff. And Clemson going 11-1. Their only loss on the season, week 1 to LSU. So when Georgia Tech plays Clemson, I've already got Clemson as 1-1, and Georgia Tech almost with this haymaker, absolute huge right hook to the face, whatever you want to call it, your boxing analogy, that if they put Clemson at 1-2, if they have a loss to LSU already, there's a little shift of confidence on them. Their backs are against the wall, and Clemson could be playing a very tight game on the road. Now, the bye week comes after that 4-1 starts. Virginia Tech, they get the Hokies at home, have them winning 29-13. Then it's Duke and Syracuse, a win 27-18 against Duke. Syracuse 30-20. A lot of these matchups appear, obviously I understand you lost to Syracuse last year. They don't have just the ability to throw for 400 yards a game without Kyle McCord. Lost a good amount of the players that were within that organization, that program that had the production of wideouts. They lose a lot of it to the transfer portal. Have tighter games, Virginia Tech, Duke, Syracuse, but really nobody that's able to stay with the physicality of the Yellow Jackets in the second half of football games. Jamal Haynes just really being able to salt games away. 7-10-point leads, third, fourth quarter, being able to hold on to them. Haynes King just putting the ball in his hands. Understandably, the main feature point, what everyone talks about with Haynes, is how he had, 19 or 20 carries against the Georgia Bulldogs and had that team literally carrying them on his back. Well, you can't do that every week. We saw how he got injured earlier in the season. He will have to find a way to throw more than 14 touchdowns next year. He's going to need to hit that 20 mark if Georgia Tech wants to be a college football playoff team. Now, I'm considering even the 650 on the ground, 10, 11, 12 rushing touchdowns. He needs to find a way to protect his body and his frame. He's 6'3", 215 pounds, but you can't take that toll of 10, 12 carries every single week, getting absolutely hit. He's going to be getting hit that way, right? We understand he's going to be taking those hits consistently. 11, 24, 8, 20 carries, 11, 12, 14. Can he find a way to be able to get the ball to his players on the outside and stay healthier down the stretch of the season? Have them losing at NC State. Now, the Wolfpack present challenges. I don't want them, obviously, to start looking ahead at the calendar. Brent Key is going to keep them together. That's why I just brought this up, because at some point, I do see the possibility that there is a little bit of injury at that point. You're looking at a stretch of those 3 games coming off the bye. Right before the bye week, a loss at NC State 27-24, because I'm baking in that there is a likelihood that Haynes King has injury, something in there once again for the season. I know that's a little bit weird as a prediction to talk about, but we just know that toll, that load that will be on him once again. Really hope that they can shift somewhat of that offensive dynamic so it doesn't have to be that way, because if he gets hurt again, the whole team runs through him, and if he has to run the ball 15 times a game, how is he going to be fresh by the time you get to about week 9? At that point, after that loss, the season still is intact. Like, you could beat Boston College 28-17. You can beat Pittsburgh 34-21. And on the season, they are 9-2 before that showdown against Georgia. Now, a loss against Georgia, they would be out 9-3 without a doubt. Yeah, you can't go 6-2 in the ACC. A loss outside of it to Georgia at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on a neutral site. But the Dogs, Carson Beck's not there to have that crazy, amazing comeback in that second half, just pushing the ball completely down the field. The Georgia Bulldogs, again, had a decent run game with Nate Frazier. He was running over people in that matchup at the end of last year. But again, Gunnar Stockton and Georgia, a very similar style, but they're going to be leaning on Zachariah Branch, Dylan Bell, getting the football to them. Oscar Telp, the tight end, could be up there for a top 5 tight end in college football next year, being a focal point. Understandably, Georgia at its core will want some form of production from its tight ends of what they had the last couple of years, obviously, in Brock Bowers, and then we see what he does in the National Football League. Georgia is a team they can beat. Last year, there was more of a discrepancy. It was a wider gap between the talent and skill levels. Georgia Tech is more veteran this year. Obviously, Georgia loses the 3 first-round picks on defense. You don't have Smile Munden, who was a 5th-rounder, went to the Eagles. They don't have Michael Williams going 12th overall to the 49ers. They don't have Jalen Walker, who goes to the Atlanta Falcons in the teens there. Like, they don't have those 2 guys in the back end. Malachi Starks to be able to fill in and do anything. It was crazy how Georgia Tech was just moving the ball on like this NFL defense last year, and Georgia couldn't stop Haynes King. That is the type of game, puts him on a back. It doesn't matter if he has broken fingers or a hurt shoulder. He will be putting the team on his back in a necessary environment for them to get into the CFP. Oh, man. A win against Georgia, what that would mean for the Yellow Jackets going forward, being able to go get another quarterback of this level and be a team that could compete in the ACC. It's not like other conferences of the Big Ten and the SEC of Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, or a school like USC in Los Angeles, where Georgia Tech can build sustained success out there for that program over the long term, because the ACC every single year, unless Clemson will have a great program this year, but typically we're going to see them come back a little bit more so to earth unless they win a natty. If you're Georgia Tech, anything but a natty for Clemson, because most likely that will mean more tremendous talent will be continuing to come there. So getting somehow into the playoff would be incredible. Just want to see all of America and for the entire country to know what Haynes King is, when only probably a couple million people do that were watching that game to what, 12 o'clock at night on that Friday before at the start of rivalry weekend, and him plowing through people is one of the more tremendous performances and just heartbreaking. I'm an Ohio State fan. I don't have particularly a rooting interest. Georgia didn't have a factor on the Buckeyes in the playoff. Really, at that point, Georgia could have lost and then lost to Texas also, and maybe been bumped from the playoff, I guess, with a 4th loss. So I guess that could have happened. But that Georgia team, they were so good up front, and Haynes just continuing to produce. I need you to know that I'm making this video a couple of weeks before you're watching it because I will be in Africa, just going to see Tanzania, the Great Migration there. At the time you're watching this video, so I made it a few weeks ahead of time. It's actually June 30th right now when I'm recording this video. So if anything comes up for guys that won't be out there on the field, maybe limited information that comes out, news that I'm not aware of now, I apologize for the integrity of this video. It's authentic because I'm working with what's available now, but just don't know what will happen in the future that could impact guys that are really on the field. So please make sure to subscribe for more content in the future. Fired up for Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket football next year. Of course, they started last year with an incredible game-winning field goal, beating Florida State, and they were off to the races and a great season. Would love to see a lot more of that. One of my more favorite fun teams, obviously, to follow in college football next year. So make sure to subscribe, like, comment down below whether you agree with all this on Georgia Tech. And I wish you a great rest of your day. Thank you.